Among other things, I meal prep for the same reason why some famous billionaires wear the same clothes every day, to avoid decision fatigue throughout the week. By prepping ahead, I free up my mental energy to focus my week on what truly matters. In today's video, I will show you how I prep my breakfast, lunch, and dinner for this week. Before I dive into the work, I like to fix myself a drink because spending my Sunday cooking can get really exhausting. I used to pour myself a glass or two of wine, but nowadays I opt for electrolytes. #healthy lifestyle. Now that my hydration is sorted, let's get started. I plan to cook all the proteins plus one side in the oven today, so I set it to preheat at 350 Fahrenheit. For dinner, I'm making chicken and lamb kebab burgers with masala fries. And since fries take the longest to cook, I started with those. I thoroughly washed 4 potatoes and chopped them into long fries. After chopping them, I soak them in cold water. This helps remove extra starch from the potatoes, which helps them make crispier. While the potatoes were soaking, I started prepping the chicken and lamb kebabs. I started by combining ground lamb and ground chicken and then added homemade green chili, ginger garlic paste, chopped cilantro, and then raided my spice collection. If you grew up in India in the 90s, you might remember that spice ad, Kitchen King ho ya garam masala, pav bhaji ya chunky chaat masala. That song was playing in my head as I generously added spices. I've listed all the spices in the description below. Then I added panko breadcrumbs for binding and started mixing everything with a spatula. Honestly, if you don't mind touching raw meat, mixing with your hands works best, but I just can't bring myself to do it. I've been meaning to buy cooking gloves, but I keep forgetting until this stage of cooking. Once all the spices were mixed in, I divided the meat into 4 equal portions. Even though with this amount of meat I could have made 6, but I wanted my meals to be very high in protein. Then I placed the 4 portions on an oven tray lined with parchment paper. Pro tip, if you crumble the parchment paper first, it will lay flat on the tray instead of rolling around. Then I had to do the inevitable and roll them out using my hands. I sprayed my hands with oil to keep the meat from sticking and to avoid the smell of garlic and other spices lingering on my hands. After shaping the kebabs, I left them in the fridge for a few minutes and went back to the potatoes. I drained away the starchy water and put the potatoes in an oven tray in which I was planning to bake them. I sprayed them with oil, then added some cornstarch. This is optional only to make the potatoes crispy, and then spiced them up with red chili powder and coriander powder. I didn't add any salt while baking the fries. My plan was to add salt if at all needed when I reheat them while eating. Then I sprayed a little more oil and mixed everything thoroughly. Then I popped the potatoes into the oven on the lower rack. Then I got started on the protein for my lunch. For lunch, I was planning to make chicken burrito bowls with harissa sauce because I've been craving chipotle so much. But at home, I can make it bigger and better than chipotle. I directly defrosted the chicken in the oven tray I'm planning to bake. I marinated about 16 pieces of chicken tenders with these 2 spices, taco seasoning and smoked paprika. I first mixed equal amount of the 2 with some water to make a marinade and then poured them over the chicken and give them a mix. Once all the chicken pieces are fully coated with spices, I layered them out evenly. Then I popped both the marinated chicken and chicken lamb kebabs into the oven at the same time because they take the same time to cook. While I was doing that, I also took the potatoes out and gave them a quick shake just to make sure they don't stick to the tray, and then put them back in the oven. Now that the proteins for both lunch and dinner were in the oven, it was time to get started on the breakfast. I was planning to make egg white bites for breakfast. First, I started chopping some veggies for them, including bell pepper, onion, and jalapeno. I also needed the same veggies for burrito bowls and some of them for kebab burgers as well, so I took my sweet time chopping all the stuff and portioning them in different containers to use in different meals. On a side note, while chopping veggies, I keep a container right at the counter to save all the veggie scraps. After chopping the veggies, I freeze such scraps, and once I have enough scraps, I use them to make a veggie broth. After chopping the veggies, I got started on the egg bites. I sprayed a muffin tray with oil and added some veggies into each cavity. You can use a variety of veggies for these: bell peppers, onion, tomato, zucchini, corn, broccoli, spinach, kale, whatever you have on hand. Then I poured liquid egg whites over them. Egg whites are higher in protein, which is why I prefer them over whole eggs, but sometimes I mix both whole eggs and egg whites, or even add cottage cheese for that extra protein. But this time I kept it simple with just egg whites. I seasoned everything with salt, pepper and red chili powder and carefully mixed everything with a fork. Then I put the muffin tray in the oven. By this time, the chicken and kebabs were ready to come out of the oven. I took them out and left them to cool down. The last thing I needed to cook was Mexican rice for the burrito bowls. You could simplify things with plain boiled rice, but this Mexican rice adds a beautiful spicy layer to the bowl. I sauteed some chopped onion and jalapenos in a non-stick pot, and once the onions became translucent, I added chopped tomatoes along with smoked paprika and cumin powder to it. Then I added a cup of washed rice and toasted them for a few minutes. Then I added 2 cups of vegetable broth. If you don't have veggie broth, water works just fine. Then let it simmer until the rice absorbs all the liquid. While the rice was cooking, I prepared 2 sauces for both lunch and dinner. For the kebab burgers, I made a quick chutney sauce by adding chutney masala to Greek yogurt along with some chopped cilantro and gave it all a good mix. For the burrito bowls, I combined this habanero sauce with Greek yogurt. This habanero sauce from Trader Joe's is really spicy, so just a little bit mixed with Greek yogurt makes a perfect topping for the bowl. At this point, the rice was done, so I fluffed it up and let it cool down. I also took the fries and egg bites out of the oven. Now it was time to pack everything into my meal prep containers. For the dinner, I placed 4 kebab patties into individual boxes along with some greens and onions to make the burger, and added all the fries into a separate large container. When it's time to eat, I'll toast these buns, reheat and sear the kebab, reheat the fries in air fryer and assemble the burger. For lunch, I made 5 individual burrito bowls with a base of greens, then added the chopped veggies, bell pepper, onion, cucumber, followed by chopped chicken. I also added rinsed and drained canned black beans, then added the Mexican rice after making sure it had cooled down, and then topped it with jalapenos and cilantro. These bowls taste great either heated in microwave for a minute or even at room temperature depending on your preference. In the summers, I prefer to eat them at room temperature, so when I'm ready to eat, all I have to do is add the habanero yogurt sauce on top and enjoy. During breakfast was the easiest. Once the egg bites cooled down, they popped out of the muffin trays effortlessly. I placed them in airtight glass containers. These also taste great either at room temperature or heated in the microwave or air fryer. Usually I pair them with a toast for a filling breakfast, or if I'm not feeling very hungry in the morning, I just eat them as is so that at least I get my protein if not a full breakfast. And with that, my meal prep was done and all I had to do was clean the giant mess in my kitchen. I will do that off screen though. If you find value in this meal prep content, please like and subscribe and let me know in the comments if you have any questions about meal prepping.